Well, good evening. Hello there, good people. Hi, I'm Jason with Green Country Agroforestry, and of course, if you're watching on the replay, today is Wednesday night, 8 p.m., which means it's time for yet another live stream. How's everybody doing out there? Let me see. Okay, yep, we're on. We're live. We've got one person watching. All right. I'm going to enjoy my coffee for a second here and wait for a couple more people to show up. Hello, Sassafras Red. What's growing? Everything's growing. Right here, I've got some pink soba buckwheat growing. Nice stuff. Is this thing on? Okay. I suppose we've got commercials and people are trying to join here. I've been on for 1 minute and I don't know. Can you guys see me? Hello? Is anybody there? Gotta go put up the orchard hens. All right. Be right back. All right, so that's the one person watching. I'm a good one. Oh, loose belt. That was a loose belt. Yep. Get over here and have a look at YouTube. Yay. Yeah, I started these a while back and put 72 of them out. Most of them sprouted. And I've been working on getting them out into the yard today. Hello, Katie Moyer. In the midst of going over here to YouTube and seeing what's going on, there's this guy called Jason Avers. I understand he's doing a live stream on volunteer gardening. I don't know what that means. What is volunteer gardening? I hope he'll tell us. So I've clicked on here. I'm on YouTube. I'm watching him. He seems to be looking down at his computer. Oh, hi. Hi, Katie. All right, so I got my YouTube up and muted. There we go. You just left Prepper. Vicky just left Prepper Nurse 1. Hey. Is Prepper Nurse 1 having his live stream at the same time, Wednesday, 8 p.m.? I need to go check up on him, see what he's up to. I haven't watched one of his streams in a while. Last time I saw him, he had just increased his solar panels, so he was getting some pretty good power out of those. All right, got 3 people on, so I'm going to wait until a couple more come on before I give you the spiel on today's topic. But since you guys are here early, Katie was at Prepper Nurse 1 too. All right, so since you guys were here early, I'll treat you. Or torture you, one of the two. I've been working a little bit this week on another song, and this one doesn't require an instrument. Well, you can always slap your thighs and snap your fingers, or use a bucket. Although this one's not empty. Yeah, that one will work. It's kind of like a drum. Yep. And I'm picturing in my mind a group of people working. They could be swinging pickaxes or sledgehammers or working in the field or anything like that. And it's, of course, a working song because I've been doing a lot of that outside this week. And to keep myself amused and to keep the rhythm up. So it goes something like this. Don't want to work that hard, oh no, don't want to work that hard. Don't want to work that hard, Lord, no. Don't want to work that hard. Whoa. Whoa, bless my soul. Don't want to work that hard. Don't want to work that hard, oh no. Don't want to work that hard. Don't want to work for the railroad, no. Don't want to work that hard. Laying those tracks where the sun won't go. Don't want to work that hard. Whoa, no, bless my soul. Don't want to work that hard. Don't want to work for the railroad, no. Don't want to work that hard. Don't want to work for the steel mill, no. Don't want to work that hard. Don't much like where that steel will go. Don't want to work that hard. Whoa, no, bless my soul on fire. Don't want to work that hard, no, no, don't want to work that hard. Don't want to work for the oil boats, no, don't want to work that hard. Too many oil boats down below, don't want to work that hard. Whoa, no, bless my soul on fire. Don't want to work on that oil boat, no, don't want to work that hard. Don't want to work that hard, oh no, don't want to work that hard. Don't want to work that hard, Lord, no, don't want to work that hard. Whoa, no, bless my soul on fire. Don't want to work that hard, no, no, don't want to work that hard. Don't want to work in the coal mine, no, don't want to work that hard. Spend my days where the sun won't go, don't want to work that hard. Lord, no, bless my soul on fire. Don't want to work in the coal mine, no, don't want to work that hard. And so on and so forth. There's dozens of different, you can just keep this going all day long if you come up with different lyrics for it. Anywho, that's the sort of thing I've been chanting to myself while I've been out working in the garden and digging all day. All right, we got a few more people in here. Sunday stream same time. There's Simply Jan. Hello, Simply Jan. Hello, How to Garden. Hello, Joe Serrano. Ran into Joe at the David the Good stream earlier today, and of course, David and I are kind of thinking along the same lines. Well, volunteer gardening anyway. Don't know where that cable bill says Homestead Aquarius. Don't want to work that hard. Well, the irony is here I am out there sweating, digging away in the garden and singing about other kinds of hard work and saying, I don't want to work that hard. Right? So you all know what a volunteer is. A volunteer is, well, maybe you don't know. Okay, so I'll tell you, the people who don't already know, a volunteer in the garden is a plant that you did not plant, but you still find desirable. See, a plant that you didn't plant is a weed, but a plant that you didn't plant that you still find desirable, that's a volunteer. And volunteers are very nice, very wonderful, because, of course, you didn't have to plant them. You didn't have to plan for them. They just show up on their own. They volunteered. And Kitty, you better be careful walking around those cables because they're loose, and I don't want you bumping into them, okay? Come here. Here you go. Hi, Kitty. How you doing? All right, I got Sergeant. Hello, everyone. I got Sergeant here. Oi, oi. Is that song from the South Pacific production? No, that song was created by myself over the past week as I was working out in the garden. Oh, Kitty. How are you doing? Huh? It must be horrible to be as long-haired as you and the weather being as miserable as it is. Yes? Oi. All right, so a volunteer in the garden is the plant that you didn't want to plant, or a plant that you didn't plant, but you find desirable anyway, so you decide to keep it. I've been getting volunteer cherry tomato plants for the past few years, and I understand some other people are working on a similar project. If you can manage to get your tomato plants to grow without you having to plant them, you're ahead of the game. But I also discovered this year that I've got volunteer bean plants as well. The Cherokee Trail Tears black beans that I planted last year, I didn't harvest them all. I let some of them stay up there on the bean poles, and as a result, well, by golly, some of them started sprouting this year. So I just looped them up there onto the trellis and made sure that they weren't going to choke out my tomatoes and let them go. Burst Lane is always volunteering here. Hello, Free Handley Maid. Love volunteers. Lovely volunteer pumpkin patch. Nice. Okay, so I wanted to cover a bunch of bases today, and I didn't really know where to start. I guess I'm going to start by saying, you guys know how I introduce every video by saying hello, good people. And I say hello, good people, because I firmly believe that most people are either good, or they want to be good, or at the very least, they want to convince the rest of us that they're good. Because the worst cat of all, if you shine a light on him and show him or show the world what he's up to, he doesn't want to see you behaving, or he doesn't want you to see him behaving badly. So that's the reason why I say, hello, good people. Now, taking that into mind, I'm interested in developing cultures. Let me give you an example. I have a birdhouse behind you where just before I walked out, there was about 13 or 14 little sparrows feeding. And it's been busy all day long. I've had chickadees and sparrows and buntings and cardinals and all manner of different nuthatches, wrens. I think a downy woodpecker showed up. I don't know why. It's a tree. It's a woodpecker. Who knows? Anyway, all of these birds are coming out, and they're coming out because I invited them. I put out food for them, and they came to get the food. In the process of them coming to get the food, they're going to hang out in the tree. And while they're hanging out in the tree, of course, they're going to take care of their bathroom business, which means that they're fertilizing my plants under the tree. And they're going to eat insects for me. I got some pictures, not really good video, but last week I got a little bit of video of a cardinal mama coming in and feeding her babies. And of course, the only reason she's around is because I put the feeders out. It's a small price that I pay in my own effort and time, or money, depending upon how I'm going about getting the feed, to make sure that those birds come in and they voluntarily come and do work for me. And the thought occurred to me as I was going underneath the bird feeder, this is either last week or week before last, when I was making that breakfast video where I gathered everything up. And I picked up a piece of wheatgrass and realized that's wheatgrass. There was wheat in the bird feed. And I have volunteer wheat growing. The thought occurred to me that maybe there's another use I can get out of my fine feathered friends as well. And that is maybe they can do a little bit of planting for me as well. Because I know that birds will go out and they'll eat other places, and they'll come back and they'll leave their droppings with little seeds inside. And those seeds can become volunteer plants, like volunteer mulberry trees, for example. Let me check my comments real quick. Oh, volunteer mustard and black butter beans, says How to Garden. Okay. I need to get with you, and if you can find me some of that volunteer mustard seed, I'd love to have some, because I've been trying to find a mustard that will readily reseed itself. I love the idea of having annual plants that will reseed themselves if you just don't harvest all of them. My amaranth is like that. I've had some borage that is like that. The basil that I'm growing is like that. Remarkably enough, I've got basil planting in little cell planters where I didn't plant it. It's really trying to grow. All of these things, if you can eliminate that initial part where you have to get the ground prepared, get the seed in there, coax it to grow, all of that part of annual gardening that actually makes it challenging and difficult. If you've got plants that are eager to grow and want to grow and will voluntarily grow, then all you have to do is make sure that they stay taken care of once they're up and you get to harvest. I kind of like that idea. I don't like working that hard. Okay. So while I'm doing this, contemplating the idea of volunteer plants, I've got another couple of seeds here that I ordered up. Remember that I said it was a seed addict last week. They finally arrived. I'll show you those here in a minute. Eventually I want to have those become volunteers for me. But it's about time I mixed up a little bit more of our birdseed mix, because it's been a week and they've eaten all the stuff that I made up. Volunteers are wonderful. You don't have to tell them to come in and work. They do it because they want to. And the way you get that to happen is establishing a culture. Now, I used to work in management, various companies, and I discovered that the best way to get productivity was to establish a culture. Pardon me a moment. Let's put this here. And what I mean by that is, I inoculate the employees with an idea or a concept. They spread that idea to all the new employees as they come in. And as it is the culture of the workplace that's being spread, and it's spread readily by everyone in it, the newcomer that's just arriving into the company. Oh, shoot, let's just use all of it. What do you say? The newcomer that arrives into the company is automatically trained by everyone around them to interact with that culture and perform the necessary tasks that get the job done. Now, in the case of most things, I like establishing a good customer service culture. Basically, we make sure that whenever some customer comes in to visit us, when they leave the establishment, they are happy they came here. Even if, maybe we didn't get them exactly what they wanted, they're still happy they came to see us. They keep coming back. That sort of a culture, if it's maintained, is very good for business. Now, the culture I'm establishing with bird feeders is one where, right now I'm probably feeding more than I'm going to be able to sustain. But it's going to guarantee those birds come around. Some of them are going to nest. And if they nest, then they'll be back next year. Their children will be back next year, and so on and so forth. And they know that they can find their food around here. So I've established a culture. Hope that makes any sense. Maybe it does. Look at my comments down here. How the Garden says, every office I've ever been in has been toxic. Isn't that horrible? And that all goes back to your basic management. A lot of people get into management and they have no idea what they're doing. They know how to boss people around. Oh, I'm in charge. And a lot of people actually get a kick out of being in charge. That's the worst kind of manager you can ever hope to have. The best kind of manager is one that goes, okay, I know what the goal is, and I'm going to help us get there. And the best way, of course, is establishing a culture. All right. You were bullied at the last. Oh, Gail was bullied at the last job. Yep. Process engineering. Oh, no, Kitty, do not touch that cable. If the camera goes out, you'll know what happened. Kitty got adventurous. All right. Good managers are kind. Well, yeah, you have to be kind, but you also have to know how to say no. Incidentally, today I'd like to give all of you a gift. It's a very simple gift. I can give it to you right here over the video. You have permission to tell anyone no at any time for any reason. It's a free word. Use it. It's one of the best words you can use because people will take advantage of you if you don't. Maybe it's a Cat 1 cable. Oh, ha 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 ha. Yeah. Okay. Well, he's busy eating his kibble now. No, the last word. Most important word you will ever learn. Learn how to say no. All right. So I've got the chicken scratch in there. I got distracted. We're going to get some sunflower seeds. Now, chicken scratch has corn in it and it has some Milo in it, and that's mostly what it's got is corn and Milo. That'll get a few birds, but there's a few more. Oh, that's a 40-pound bag of sunflower seeds. There's a few more that are really interested in sunflower seeds. There we go. When it comes to the cracked corn, just about all the birds can eat that cracked corn. But some of them are really going to want those sunflower seeds, so just take them off my chair and drop them in there. So we'll put some sunflower seeds in it for the ones that want to have the sunflower seeds. So remember, your culture has to have something for everybody that's going to participate in it. Otherwise, they won't want to participate. They won't want to volunteer. All right, so we got some millet in this bag. There's also a little bit of safflower and some more sunflower seeds, but mostly millet. And we're going to put that in there. Now, as a result of me putting millet into the seed, there's a chance that some more finches will come because they like those smaller seeds. And there's a chance that the finches might distribute some of the millet, and I might wind up getting some. Best way to deal with rejection as an American, Brian, it's smile and say okay and go on with your life. Because the person that says no to you has the right to say no. Plain and simple. Same as you do. Everybody has the same rights. Or at least we're supposed to. Boy. El Shaman Waffle? Bump those numbers up. Hello, Moon Sprouts. All right. So, you've seen me put these things together into a birdseed mix before. This is nothing unusual. We got some millet seed in here for the little birds. We got cracked corn for everybody. We got sunflowers for most of them. And, of course, we've got Milo and everything else. And sometimes Bert, the amazing jungle fowl, the one rooster I've got left, likes to come out and he'll clean up around underneath the bird feeders as well. But there's a type of bird. Actually, there's a couple of types of birds that I want to attract, and I haven't seen a whole lot of them yet. All right, so I've got the cardinals with their pretty red leaves. I've got the cardinals with their pretty red feathers, and I've got the buntings with their lovely blue feathers, and they're really nice, and I wish I could capture some on camera, and I'm probably just going to have to point the camera out there and let it stream, and somebody who's watching at the time sees one, gives me a timestamp, and we can isolate that and go, oh, look, see, they're real. They do exist. Kind of like Bigfoot. But buntings are real. Okay. I want to get some American goldfinches, and I've been reading about what they like to eat, and although they may eat the millet and they may eat that cracked corn, there's something in just about every finch mix that I don't necessarily think I want to put in my bird feeders, and that's thistle seeds. Because if I put thistle seed in my bird feeder, I'm going to wind up with thistles. Now, I don't mind having some volunteer wheat. I don't mind having some volunteer millet even. But thistles, that's kind of a hard one to deal with. I don't know if I want volunteer thistles. But then I got to thinking about it, and I realized there is one kind of thistle. There is one kind of thistle that I wouldn't mind having some. I've thought about growing them myself. So if I were to get this one particular type of thistle as a volunteer, then, okay, I'd be happy. I'd have the pretty little yellow birds that come by, and I would have a special type of thistle, the one that I can cut the flower head off of before it opens and sell it at the farmer's market. You guys know which one it is? Let's see if somebody knows. All right. We'll give you a minute. So can somebody guess the name of the thistle that I wouldn't mind having as a volunteer? Let's see if somebody can guess what it is. There's Jan Penland. Hello, Jan. Gail said I wasn't always good at saying no, but I practiced it. Walked around saying no a lot to get ready for it. No. And really, you don't have to feel, you shouldn't be made to feel ashamed or embarrassed to say no. No, I don't want to. No. Just no. And yeah, practice a lot. Practice it a lot. People that really care about you will go, okay. And people that really respect you will go, okay. They might still try to persuade you or convince you otherwise, but they will have to accept you're saying, no, I don't want to. All right. We'll feed them to the birds. Brian said, I never smoked pot in my life. Not once, never. Oh, isn't that horrible? Let's see. Understands it's okay to ask the question and they have the right to say no. Yep. Yeah, they're not your type of bird. That's okay. Yeah, lots of bird analogies going on today. Blessed thistle, says Jan. Milk thistle, no. Dandelions, no. Sow thistle, no. You tincture the Texas milk thistle, particularly the seeds. That's interesting. What was the Texas milk thistle good for? Moon sprouts? Love hearing cardinals and robins sing. Those aren't thistle. Okay. Haven't heard any mockingbirds unless they're copying a robin. I had a mockingbird sitting over there on a light pole about a month or two ago copying a cat. And I kept on hearing this meow, meow, meow. And I looked over there and said, where's the cat? Where's the cat? Where's the cat? And then I look up and it's a mockingbird sitting there going, meow, meow. And I'm like, really? It's a cat or a mockingbird making a cat noise. Daylilies or coneflower are good plants. They are, but they're not thistles. For liver health. Oh, for liver health is what you're doing. Milkweed. No. Spear thistle. No. Really? You guys don't know this? Okay, so all right. So this is a very old thistle plant. A very old thistle plant has been cultivated for a long time. The Romans used to grow it, and it's very popular in Italian cuisine, as a matter of fact. People eat it all the time, but I bet you didn't realize it's a thistle. Artichokes. Artichokes are thistles. Purple flowers and all when they actually open up. Yeah, mockingbird making cat meow would be a great video. I didn't have the camera out. I was like, really? Really? The things that happen when you don't have the camera on. Artichokes. Yes, artichokes are a type of thistle. So I could get artichoke seed and stock the bird feeders with artichoke seed, attract the little pretty little yellow American goldfinches, and if I wind up with volunteer thistles, artichokes, then I just have another revenue stream. I cut the heads off, take them to the farmer's market, and laugh and laugh and laugh, because in the process, really, blackbird and a cardinal having a disagreement over there to my right, your left. Okay, apparently the cardinal has been persuaded to go wait his turn. He could just go to the bird feeder over there. All right. How are my Japanese mushrooms growing? I think I managed to wind up getting some contamination because there are some things other than those mushrooms growing. There is mycelium spreading, but I also have some sort of mold that's also growing in the same container. I don't know yet whether the mushrooms are going to turn out, or if the competition from the other species growing in there is going to be too much for them. Competition from other species can be a problem when growing mushrooms. For example, there's a female bunting. Anyway, for example, see, the nice pretty bluebirds show up whenever the camera's not pointed that way. Okay, so for example, I put spawn in for King Stropharia and oyster mushrooms, Italian oyster mushrooms, into my little wood chip bins last year. And this year I started getting some flushes, but they aren't really as good as I would like. And the only ones I'm getting are the King Stropharia. I'm not seeing any of the oyster mushroom spawn at all. And the concern I have here is those two different types of mushrooms, which I kind of hoped would work together, may have been competing with each other and not playing fair. And it's only the King Stropharia that's coming up, but they've been hindered by the growth of the other one. Maybe, I don't know, but that's my best guess. So the next thing I want to do is take a mushroom bed and build it with just one type of spawn in it and see if that makes any difference at all. Constantly experimenting with things. This one we found out we can't really mix the two together, I think, is the takeaway. All right. Right. Homestead Aquarius says, that was unnecessary. Really? Trick question. What? The kind of thistle you can have that is beneficial that you'd want to have is an artichoke. It's not a trick question. And Moonsprat says, I've encountered a small patch of wine caps. The mycelium seem healthy so far. Hey, if you can get them to grow, good. Wine cap are supposed to, that's the King Stropharia, they're supposed to be very, very forgiving of there being other things around. But I guess maybe the oysters weren't quite as forgiving, and that's why I haven't seen any. Maybe. Careful, Katie. Oh, you've inoculated. Why did I think you said encountered? Dad always said don't mess around with that. What are you not supposed to mess around with? Stray cats? Oh, this one isn't stray. This one's my mole hunter. speaking of moles, I haven't seen any moles, voles, or groundhogs. What have you done for me lately? Huh? Do you hear that? He squeaks. Okay. Oh, growing mushrooms. Mushrooms are fine. Just don't eat anything that you can't 100% positively identify. All right. So coming up at some point in the future, we'll have artichoke seeds, which are thistle seeds, going into that mix, and we'll get pretty little yellow birds to go along with the pretty little reds and pretty little blues. And don't mess with that cable, kitty. I don't want you messing with the cable. But there's another type of bird that I'm trying to bring into the culture. And once they get going here, once they get established and they see all the wonderful grasshoppers and slugs and snails and caterpillars and other sort of bugs that we have available for them, I'm sure they'll want to hang around, but I have to get them interested first. So I've got bird baths and I've got bird houses that can accommodate them. And now all I have to do is make sure there's enough food of a type that they'll like to get them interested in coming around. If they come around and they stick around, they eat some more bugs for me, I'm pretty sure I can persuade them to make their nests here and raise up their children in the culture of work in Jason's garden and help me out, hopefully. And that is, hang on a second here. I've got these. Oh, I smell them. Actually, they smell almost like food, but I don't think I want to eat them. These are black soldier fly larvae. So the bird in question is a bluebird. I want to see if I can get some bluebirds to come out and become part of our culture. So I'm going to put some insects out here that they can eat. Since I don't have a whole lot of really large grasshoppers at the moment, or any other really overwhelmingly sufficient supply of insects, let's just give them some soldier fly larvae. I thought I was getting mealworms, but then whenever I got home and looked at the bag, I discovered soldier fly larvae. So there we go. Mufflers, they're wonderful things. Oh, Lord. So now, the new and improved birdseed mix has soldier fly larvae in it. They're dead. They're dry. They're not going to do weird stuff. Soldier flies are interesting. It was just coincidence. David the Good had a good stream earlier today, and I happened to be taking my lunch break at the same time, and the topic of soldier flies somehow came up. And I was like, well, that's very unusual because I just got some. Synchronicity. Gotta love it. Oh, let's see here. Robert saying mushroom idea is just to start for mycology. In-depth knowledge is helpful in some cases. Yeah. There are a lot of lookalike fungus out there, so make sure you know and you really, really know what it is that you're getting ready to pop in your mouth before you just pick a mushroom and eat it. Things could go horribly wrong. This isn't tea. This is coffee. Brian said, I fed my worms today and I have to water the garden soon. Are you feeding red wrigglers or another type of worm? Because I used to raise red wrigglers. I got them from Green Greg's Garden and Worm Farm last year, middle of January, I think it was. Got those in, fed them up for a while, and then, well, that's interesting. The person just driving really slowly around the corner. Don't recognize the car. Okay. They're probably lost. Anyway, so got them, fed them up, and I experimented with putting those red wigglers on sifted wood chips for bedding instead of manure or anything else. And I fed them on corn that I had used to grow mycorrhizal fungi inoculant on. So I took the corn, I boiled it, and then let the temperature drop to acceptable temperature to grow fungus, and used my fungal inoculant on it, let it grow in that corn, and then pulled the liquid off, used that to go out there and inoculate plants, and then took the solid that was left and fed that to the worms. So the worms were eating the remains of corn that had been digested previously by fungi, and they loved it. Eventually, I wound up taking those cultures that I'd established and spreading them out throughout the garden. And so now, everywhere the worms go, they're spreading the spores of that mycorrhizal fungi. So now the entire garden is inoculated. Oh, and the 6 inches of wood chips that I put down in the backyard is now a ½ inch of worm castings. So I am growing my garden this year in worm castings that I didn't have to buy. All right. Wait. Robert is saying, you mean the same species is okay in one place but deadly in another? Unusual circumstances would make that happen. So, for example, you could have an oyster mushroom that was growing on something toxic, like an oil spill, and it takes that up into the mushroom. That wouldn't be good. Yeah, they can grow on oil. It's weird. Joe said, black soldier fly larvae. It looks something similar to what? Oh, yeah. Yeah. Caged songbirds. That's probably the same organism in actuality. Moonsprouts lost her worms when you moved. Yeah. All right. Chris has red worms and European night crawlers. Don't neglect your bins. You got to feed them. Yep. Well, yeah. Volunteer plants, volunteer birds, volunteer organisms. What about volunteer people? I did mention that we need to address the most important part of the garden, which is humans. What about a volunteer human culture? What about a culture where human interactions between each other are conducted voluntarily without threats of violence or abuse against each other? Could we develop a culture like that where we agree to a simple law? I don't harm you and you don't harm me, at least not without each other's consent. I say consent because there's a possibility that we might want to get together in an arena, say Madison Square Gardens, and put on a show where we might harm each other, but we do it consensually, where everybody will pay to watch us, put on a show. But other than that, yes, all interactions between humans, completely voluntary. You have the right to say, no, I don't want to. And that's okay. So, it got quiet. I've been trying to figure out how I want to approach that particular topic for a while now. There's no really good way of doing it other than to just dive right in, I suppose. For some reason, we have managed to get ourselves locked into some sort of bizarre situation where we wind up doing things that are completely and totally against our self-interest. And I think it's mainly because we've forgotten how to say no. And the culture that we live in, the culture that we have established for ourselves, Kitty, don't disconnect my cable. The culture that we have allowed to grow up around us is one that is not good for growing humans in. Not to put too fine a point on it, but we're being fed on the wrong things. Let's see. Sassafras Red says, my rule is your poop don't come on into my yard. It's fine. Oh. Well, yeah. Of course, Sean's talking about true anarchism, and a term that's being used nowadays, instead of saying anarchists, because people have the wrong idea about what anarchists are. They think black shirt, black flag, throwing Molotov cocktails and destroying things, which is, of course, not true at all. Anarchy is, of course, an without arc, ruler, without rulers, not without rules. We still have rules. A society can function with rules, I think. I think, as a matter of fact, we need to start imposing some rules upon our society. One rule is it's okay for an individual to say no, and that's okay. That's, of course, culture that we're talking about. You see, a culture can grow without a ruler. A culture can grow without somebody saying, you must do this, you must do that. This is what makes it so effective in business. You establish the culture. The employees teach each other how they are to behave, and the job gets done without the manager having to be a jerk. Some people can't adapt to that. Okay. Lisa says, 7 years of weekly counseling is all it took for me to learn how to say no and feel fine. I'm telling you, it's a skill. Learning how to say no is a skill. Brian's a Jason Lewis conservative. And How to Garden says, bye, y'all, gotta go. No kings, no bosses, no captains, says Sassafras Red. Okay, yeah. No, how do we get into this situation where so few people hold so much power over the rest of us? That's the big concern. And I know it's hard to believe, but it really is a very few people if you live in the United States. In other countries, the rules are different. But if you live in the United States of America, it's very few people are required to make anything imaginable law. I mean, no, really, anything imaginable. Say, for example, you own a company that manufactures pop rocks. I'm not saying specifically out against pop rocks. I'm just using this as an example. It could be anything. I'm not referring to specifically pop rocks as any trademarked product, just generally a fizzy candy substance, possibly multicolored with some sort of sodium bicarbonate based something in it that fizzes when it comes into contact with liquid, like your saliva. Pop rocks, for lack of a better term. You own a company that makes these, and you would like to sell a lot of them. There's no great harm in people owning pop rocks, carrying pop rocks, having pop rocks on them, or eating pop rocks other than the sugar, which is probably not great for the human body. But you would like to make sure that everybody is buying pop rocks. And you can do that in the United States of America. All you have to do is persuade enough people to cast their votes to make a law that makes it mandatory that everyone have pop rocks on them. You must have pop rocks in your pocket if you appear in public, subject to random stops, searches, and of course fines if the person does not carry pop rocks. Does this seem ludicrous? A law that requires that people have pop rocks, a product that you don't actually really need? Well, we have laws like that on the books. And the only thing that it takes to get a law like that passed is to persuade 270 people. That's it. In the United States of America, 270 people is enough to get any law imaginable, no matter how ridiculous, passed. That's a simple majority in the House of Representatives. That's 218 people. A simple majority in the Senate. That's 51. And, of course, you have to have a president willing to sign that bill into law. The question is, what does it cost to convince 270 people to give you the law that you asked for, the one that makes it mandatory that everyone buy pop rocks? Oh, and incidentally, if you are the only manufacturer of the officially allowed pop rocks that people must buy mandatorily, and they must spend at least, say, $5 on, 325 million people at $5 a piece, well, that's a lot of scratch. How much does it cost to get that law passed? Well, let's say you have a budget of $1 billion. That seems like a lot of money. $1 billion is 1,000 million dollars, 1,000 units of 1 million. Could you get away with a $1 million budget for each of those 270 people that you need to persuade to make your pop rock law mandatory? Yeah, quite possibly. And in a lot of cases, it wouldn't cost that much either, because people can be caused to vote against their self-interest or make actions against their own self-interest fairly readily. And if it's just something so simple as making pop rocks mandatory that everybody must own them, well, that doesn't seem so harmful, does it? But that's the way we do business here. As a matter of fact, there was a guy that got elected not too long ago that stated at the very beginning of his campaign that that's how business was done. You remember? And I thought at the time, wow, he is just coming out and talking about the illegal nature of the entire game, and nobody's commenting on it. We're just latest look going on, walking into a booth and pushing a button or punching a card or doing something. And the truth of the matter is, it didn't matter whether you voted for the donkey or the elephant. If you voted for the donkey, he was going to get into office, and under the donkey, your money was going to be taken away from you against your will, without your consent, under the threat of violent force being used against you if you failed to comply, so you can't say no. And then it was going to be spent for a large part on things that you were morally opposed to. And if the elephant were to get into office, then the same thing would happen. And the only thing that you did whenever you walked into the booth and pushed the little button or checked the mark or punched the card was saying, I consent to this. Of course, this is why I don't vote, and this is why I'm a voluntarist, because I don't think that I have the right to rule over other people. And since I don't have that right, I can't possibly give it to someone else. No matter what kind of arcane gestures we go through, I can't create a right that doesn't exist. So there we go. That's volunteer people. Maybe you'll find the idea interesting, maybe not. Maybe you'll have to go. Let me see. Let me back up and see what the comments are. I know I just opened up a big can of worms. Let's see. What's wrong with black flags, says Aspress. Nothing at all wrong with black flags, but those people that decide I'm an anarchist and that means that the rules don't apply to me. Well, that's not true at all. Society runs on rules, and the most basic of them is the one I mentioned at the very beginning. No one shall harm another without their consent. This is the basic fundamental law. If we can't agree to that one basic law, then we really don't have a functioning society at all, do we? So the next time somebody comes up to you and does not want to abide by that one basic law, you know that we are dealing with an uncivilized criminal, even if they do happen to be wearing a uniform and carrying a badge. All right. Sean said we're all breaking at least one law at the moment. Oh, I don't remember where I heard this, but I've heard it before. The average person breaks about 3 different laws a day. And there's such a preponderance of laws on the books, code on the books, that it's impossible, really, to keep track of all of it. Even if you were to, say, hire a person to watch over everyone else to make sure that they weren't doing something they shouldn't be doing. Imagine this. This is your job. My job is to stand around and watch other people to make sure they don't do things they're not supposed to be doing. How many people can I realistically watch? Well, I mean, from our experience with public schools, 25 is a bit many. Maybe half that, 12. Okay, so you can watch 12 people. Of course, you can't do it all day long. You can work an 8-hour day with breaks periodically. So you need at least 3, maybe 4 people to watch over 12 during a 24-hour period. That means 1 in 4 people would have to be in this watch force to make sure that people weren't doing things they're not supposed to be doing. But then you have the problem of who's going to watch the watchers. Que ipsos custodius custodis? How's the Latin go? Who will watch the watchers from Juvenal? Anyway, getting off track. Obviously, having these enforcers who watch over us to make sure we don't do bad things is not It's not functioning. It's not a way to work. We have to establish a culture where people don't want to harm each other without consent, because that works to our mutual benefit. Follow? So that's all I'm trying to do. Introduce the idea of a culture. I'm not suggesting that we go out and overrun the criminals right away and do some sort of horrible thing like that. As a matter of fact, that's exactly the opposite, because those people have been acting out of their own self-interest, against their own self-interest, and not realizing it. They're actually our friends. They just don't know it yet. So, no insurrections, no attacks. Don't try to overthrow your government. And you don't have to worry about it anyway. Why? Oh, because there hasn't been any civilization in existence for the past 8,000 years or so that has lasted more than 2,000 years before it collapsed. So all you have to do is understand the importance of developing a culture, understand the importance of the one law, and then be nice. And the next time the opportunity comes up where somebody says, hey, let's build this system, you can look at them and go, yeah, that's not a good idea. Let's not do that. How about we do this instead? All right. Moonsprouts. Let's see. Gail's asking what her superpower is. Moonsprout says, V is for voluntary. Yeah, good ideas do not require force. Exactly. Good ideas do not require force. If I show you something that looks like a good idea and you want to try it out and see if it works for yourself, go for it. If you don't think it's going to work and you say, I don't think that's going to work, okay, maybe you're right. Maybe you're not. But as long as we're not forcing it on each other, then everything's good. Brian says it's a trick, like how people don't buy my eggs. And Sasspress is saying representative government does not work with millions of individuals. Yeah, once upon a time, this was around 1788 and 1789. Alexander Hamilton had been going around buying up the war debt from the various sovereign states in the Confederacy, because that was the United States of America as constituted in 1781. It was a confederacy of states. There were several different colonies now, each one an independent state. Each one had their own war debt, and Hamilton had been going around and buying up the war debt from the people who held the bonds in those separate states at pennies on the dollar, sometimes as little as 5 cents on the dollar. So he had a lot of it. And around 1788 to 1789, he managed to persuade a few other people that they needed to make a little change in the way this new country was being run. And it came to a head in 1789 with the adoption of a new constitution, replacing the old constitution. We, of course, were told that it was necessary to adopt this new constitution because there were just too many problems with the old one. We had to get rid of it. Interesting enough, once the new constitution with the current powers that are in place had been enacted, it was only 1 year later that Hamilton, as the new Secretary of Treasury under then President Washington, decided that we needed to do something about that war debt, that outstanding war debt. And the best thing to do would be to consolidate all the separate states' war debts into one single package and then arrange for the new government to pay for it. In 1791, the method for that payment was introduced. It was a tax on whiskey, oddly enough. And it was not an apportioned tax as the Constitution actually required, but a tax that was variable depending upon the mass quantities produced. If you made a lot of whiskey, for example, you ran a professional distillery, you could pay a flat fee and make as much as you wanted. If you were up in the hills and you just ran a still every now and then to preserve some of your corn harvest to have something to use for medicine and for trade, then you were taxed much higher on the whiskey. Of course, people didn't like this, considering that it was a 3% tax on tea that a lot of them had joined the revolution for in the first place. They started insisting that they weren't going to pay this new unconstitutional tax. People have claimed that it is constitutional. People have claimed that it's not. I don't really know, and I don't really care, because what Washington ultimately wound up doing was conscripting 13,000 men and marching on Pennsylvania and arresting the people that didn't want to pay the tax. This was, of course, called the Whiskey Rebellion, and you probably weren't taught about it in high school or grade school or at all, really. So, for those people in the United States on the 4th of July, which is coming up very shortly, whenever you get out there and you see the fireworks and you wave the flag and you feel all patriotic for that wonderful country that was spawned by the Declaration of Independence in 1776, I want you to remember that that country no longer exists. It was overthrown in 1789. Or no, 1789. Whenever our old Constitution, the one that we actually feel patriotic about, was abolished. Well, the problem with the old one is it was a much more anarchist system. People were allowed to say no. Pop rocks are fun. Hey, there you go. See, there's the propaganda. Brian, you're rolling out the propaganda train. Pop rocks are fun. You can even manage to get a doctor on board to say pop rocks are probably good for you. I mean, that boost of sugar gives you that burst of energy that you really need to get work done. Pop rocks, yummy candy. Hey, red chili powder and tamarind pulp and sugar is some good stuff. Got Moose Gal's Kerner saying hi. Hate dealing with getting my pop rocks in Illinois. All right. Letting power hungry people lead us and decide things for us. Well, we are always going to have power hungry little fascists. We're always going to have psychopaths and sociopaths. Probably about 3% of the population. Any given time you run into somebody, there's 3 out of every 100 people that you meet are going to be either psychopathic or sociopathic. Unfortunately, these are the people that are attracted to those levers of power. The best thing that we could possibly do, if we're ever in the position where we have to rebuild our civilization, which may happen in our lifetime, maybe it won't, who knows. If we're ever in a position where we have to rebuild our civilization, a good idea would be trying to find a way that they can't get to those levers of power, or those levers of power just simply don't exist for them to seize a hold of. Now, I don't mean that we should abolish law enforcement or law. Obviously, we need law. The idea that occurred to me, and I don't know how many of you know this, but whenever I first started my YouTube channel, it was all philosophy, 100% philosophy. This was years ago. I put up a few videos, really bad, grainy webcam video, and talked about philosophy, and a few people liked it, but it didn't really go very far. And that's whenever I said, okay, yeah, I'm not going to talk about philosophy. Nobody cares about this stuff, right? Nobody cares. But the idea that I pitched back then, and I still think it's a great idea, is we have a sheriff. And this sounds like, wow, a law enforcement position. Isn't that government? Well, not exactly. Because the way this works is through unanimity. Try spelling that word. Unanimity. It's a concept that existed in limited form in Poland back whenever Poland was ruled by a monarch. I know that sounds weird. And was practiced by the Lakota people for a long time. And technically, I guess, in tribal government, it still is. In the Polish version, all the nobles, these were people with land, whenever they met in council with the king and a law was proposed, every single one of them had the power to veto. All they had to do was say, no, I object. The law is dead, right there on the spot. You cannot make a law that anyone objects to. So you have unanimity. Everyone agrees. And I thought, wow, that's an amazing concept. How would we go about doing this if we were going to be building a civilization, if we were going to be building a culture? How would we go about setting this into motion? And I rose, we have to have that one basic law that we can all agree to. I don't hurt you, you don't hurt me, without mutual consent. That seems like a fairly easy one to get by. I think most people can agree to that. Then the question becomes, well, what if someone believes that another has done them harm, whether that's economic harm or violence against their person, so on and so forth. There are a number of different types of harm, or what is a person might feel has been harm to them, up to and including a noise complaint, right? I can't sleep. You're harming my health. I cannot get a good night's sleep because of the racket that you're making. Well, that's a potential type of harm. But you can't just go walking over to your next door neighbor and start attacking them because you feel that you've been harmed. Instead, we have a sheriff. And the sheriff's job is to take the person that the complaint's been made about and bring them to the court, which is convened at the time that there is a charge made and filled with people that will hear the case. Now, the method for choosing the sheriff and the method for choosing the jury, even the method for choosing who will be the judge in that case, is all the same. I'll detail it for you. Instead of having candidates that run for an election where people have to divide up into factions and be against each other in factions, to vote against each other in factions, to choose a sheriff that some people might not want and some people might want. Instead, every 2 or 3 years, whatever the term is that we're going to get a sheriff, we have all of the potential candidates for that particular office appear before the community that they would be serving. Remember, they're serving a position of responsibility, not a position of authority. Where does the authority rest? It rests with the people themselves and no one else. All of the people that want to have the job of sheriff will present themselves to the community. If any one of them should be found to be unacceptable by the community, then they are not allowed to be sheriff. The ones that are remaining obviously are acceptable to whoever else was in the community, right? We all had to look at them. We all said, okay, yeah, that guy can do the job. I trust them to do the job of upholding the laws that we give him to uphold or her to uphold. So all the candidates that are left are all acceptable. There's no fight between the citizens about who's going to be the man who gets the job or the woman who gets the job. We immediately eliminated a lot of tension. We don't have neighbors angry at neighbors because of their political choices. We don't have a political choice other than to say, well, I know that guy's a thief and he'll embezzle every penny you get. We can't let him be sheriff. Oh, okay, I guess he's not acceptable. All the ones who are left draw lots. They take a stone, they drop it into a bowl. One stone's pulled out and replaced with a stone of a different color. Everybody comes by and pulls the stone out. Whoever's got the off-color stone, hey, you got the job for the next 2 years. That's it. This way you get a law enforcer that everyone can agree is acceptable to the job. Unanimity. And we still have rule of law. We still have law enforcement. And incidentally, yeah, juries are selected the same way. Everyone who wants to be involved in the trial says, hey, I can do jury duty. I can have the opportunity to rule in this case. And once again, if any potential juror is unacceptable, vetoed. That's the idea. Anyway, can you imagine a civilization based upon that particular concept and with those particular guidelines? Wouldn't it be wonderful? No bosses, no kings. Anyway, let's see what's going on in comments. Oh, we're at 9 o'clock, so we're going to wrap up pretty soon. That's actually what I wanted to get to, was volunteer gardening, being a volunteer, and maybe thinking about volunteer people too. So I'm going to read off our comments here, and we'll wrap up. Lila, Lila, hi Lila. Oh, Lila's my other mother. Hi. Katie says, I hear artichokes grow well with garlic growing nearby. Really? Okay. Lisa's saying you couldn't have unanimity if currency or the need for currency exists, though, right? No, not at all. All currency is something that I think has value that you're offering me, and I think that the amount of whatever it is that you're offering me is worth whatever I have, then I can agree to a sale or not agree to a sale. Remember, I have the right to say no. So if you hand me a piece of paper that has some dead criminal's face on it and say, here, take this, In a proper civilization, if I know that that's actually not worth anything, I can say, no, I don't want that. All right. Let me see. Yeah, Sean's actually a little bit older than I am. A little bit. Because his one thing Herb got right was eliminate Alexander Hamilton. Well, yeah, Hamilton was going for more positions of power. He'd already managed to get his way with getting the tax to pay off the debt. So he was very wealthy at the time. Was going for, I think, mayor of New York or governor or something of that nature. I can't remember off the top of my head. And they got into a shooting match over it. He got himself killed. Well, yeah, except for a queen, he says. All right. Now, Joe's down there in Mexico, and he's saying Guanajuato state to the west of where he lives been invaded by the cartels, probably in collusion with. Well, okay, yeah. I keep on saying this, that the war on drugs is not really working out very well, because the only thing it's really doing is making the sale and trade of drugs illegally profitable. If it wasn't profitable, they wouldn't be doing it. And the cartels are taking that money and they're turning it into weapons, and they're using those weapons to dominate and control the regions that they're in. So essentially, the war on drugs is helping destabilize Mexico and prop up the cartels. It's not good business. And it's not nice to do to our neighbors either. I mean, it's really not nice. Take away their source of funding. And there are some places in Mexico, too, where the locals have band together and protect their own trade and their own interests, which is interesting. They've got a get together at what is it called? Acapulco every year, called an Acapulco. I think that would be kind of cool to go visit if I was allowed to leave this country. But I don't have the necessary papers to do so. Right. Okay. So Joe says that there is a way for we the people to go sovereign, not citizens. Citizens are dead corporate entities applicable to Canada and the U.S. and probably also Mexico. Right. It's okay. It's legal lingo, right? The legal lingo. But remember, the legal lingo was created by criminals. How do they finance their operation? They take from you without your consent, under the threat of violent force being used against you. That's called theft. That's a criminal activity. They're an ongoing criminal organization, a mob, a syndicate. That's all governments everywhere. So the fact that they have laws just means they're an organized criminal syndicate. Now you know why organized crime is very frowned upon. Okay. There's a Filipino-American War. New the Spanish-American War. Yeah, there's some interesting. Well, Spain had control of the Philippines at the commencement of the Spanish-American War. And Espresso says true anarchy has not been tried. Technically, we live in a state of anarchy right now. We live in a state of anarchy where criminal organizations run things. But we live in a state of anarchy. Always have, always will. The only thing we're talking about is getting rid of the delusion that somehow a criminal organization has the right to run things. Yeah, because I'm sorry, Aquarius says, because the human factor won't be tried, it could be forced, but that would be in opposition to the concept of peaceful anarchy. Well, forcing anything would be in opposition to the concept of peaceful anarchy. But a lot of people have bought into this, the Marxist ideal from each according to his ability and to each according to his need. And a society that ran that way would be a wonderful place. It certainly would, if everyone was participating in it voluntarily. But if they're not participating in it voluntarily, then, oh my goodness, what a hellish life that people would have to live in that society. Of course, this is the reason why the Soviet Union collapsed. Because as soon as you have that person placed in a position of authority over another person, there is no equality. So that entire idea of we're all equal just fell apart. And it fell apart here in the West too. But we still keep on deluding ourselves that somehow it's okay. All right. All right. So I've caught up to there. Well, there are a lot of people that are doing work in the area talking about philosophy, particularly the philosophy of social organization, and just the concept of self-organization without force being used to make that organization happen. Enlightened self-interest was a common term back the early 17 or late 1700s, whenever the United States was being founded. It was a concept quite a few people understood and embraced. And then we just sort of drifted off from there because we were convinced that we had to for some reason. Well, I don't know why I keep on saying we. I wasn't there. I didn't consent to any of this. I was just born here. I emerged upon this land a human being, surrounded by people doing weird things for no apparent reason, acting as against their own self-interest. And I just wonder at it and go, maybe I can help them. Maybe I can show them, look, you establish a culture. And then you live a life where you can say no. You'd have to allow everyone else the same right. John is, oh, well, that's okay. You got to use up all of that daylight you get out there. That's why I moved the live stream to 8 o'clock so I could get that one more hour of daylight and get some work done. Planting the buckwheat, for example, today. Got really hot out. They kept on saying, it's going to rain, it's going to rain, it's going to rain. And it never did. 100% humidity. I've got a little chemistry project going. I'm waiting for something to happen with, and it's not going because the humidity is too high. Fertilizer. Gotta love it. All right. Sastress is going to bed. Good night. Good night. Good night. Never sign that social contract. No. Yeah, the social contract that I try to live by is I harm no one. I expect no one to harm me. Unless, of course, we have mutual consent. If I need the doctor to cut into me and get my appendix out because it's going to burst and kill me, then I'm probably going to say, yeah, save my life, please. But other than that, I don't want people sticking things in me or cutting me or doing nasty stuff like that. It sounds like assault. Well, yeah, Vicky, that's the problem. You said whose ability and who's which and whose needs come first and who decides by what standards. Whenever you have a committee or a panel or a group that gets together and decides who has what abilities and who has what needs and who gets to make these choices, then we have people in authority and we have inequality. So the inequality was baked into the cake. Every time you have a socialist governmental structure, it was automatically unequal. It's bizarre that for Western civilization, it was a monarch that actually had the most free society, and that was Poland, but while they still had a monarch. Oddly enough, didn't help the peasants any, but everyone who owned land had veto power. Okay, he said, raised a protector of the environment, flora and fauna, and guardian of bald eagles. Hey, golden rule: do unto others as you would have them do unto others. Okay, or as you would have them do unto you. Okay, so right now, oh man, I wanted to launch into at some other point complex adaptive systems the way beehives and ant colonies function, and incidentally, the way human civilization also functions, although you didn't think about it this way. We all follow rules. We do it all the time. We follow rules that aren't even written. That's how social interaction occurs. You'll see these rules occur in a supermarket whenever people are walking through, all of them going around with their shopping carts. And only recently do they put the little arrows and signs on the floor telling you which way you need to push your shopping cart. But up until then, we managed to get through those shopping marts with our shopping carts without running into each other, running over each other, and usually without squabbling over the last box of whatever that was on the shelves, because we have simple rules that we automatically follow, almost as if we're programmed with them. And the cool thing is you can always change your programming. Now, our civilization for the past 8,000 years or so has been running off of a basic fundamental rule, which is do as I say or I will hurt you. That's what the criminals use. Do as I say or I will hurt you. And the corresponding and the matching part of that is I will do what I am told if I want to avoid being hurt. And so we have the system of slaves and masters that we currently exist under. There is a competitive code that we can program into ourselves if we can learn this one. And it is indeed do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And it has its matching correspondent, which is not taught. The matching correspondent is people will show you how they want to be treated. So if somebody comes to you and offers you violence, you know they want to be treated with violence. I'll allow you to fill in the rest of the blanks from there. All right. Yes, I've read Ayn Rand. Mm-hmm. This sounds like what Jason and I talked about on the phone. It is. It is exactly what we talked about earlier. Let's see here. All right. All of this relies upon personal responsibility. And really, this is one of the key ingredients that, I'm out of coffee. We're almost done here. One of the key ingredients our civilization has been lacking a lot of recently is personal responsibility. I'm responsible for me. You're responsible for you. He is responsible for him. She is responsible for her. By abdicating personal responsibility, we've created the power vacuum that has allowed other people to come in and insert themselves and insert their particular wills and try to take control. That's why we don't have control, is because we have a lack of personal responsibility. So work on personal responsibility. Be responsible for yourself. Understand the one law and know that you have the right to say no. So there's a couple things to take away with you today. I hope you found all of this entertaining or at least informative, maybe a little bit of both. I don't know if I'm going to get all the way through comments or not. Yep, I did. We're down here at the bottom. I probably missed 90% of them. State has a monopoly on violence. There you go. Somebody's been watching some anarchist talk. But I am going to go ahead and call it an evening. Thank you very much for joining me tonight. As always, if you found the video informative or entertaining, you know what to do. I will catch you next time.